I got a Daisy feeling. I got a Daisy feeling. Yeah.
What's up and welcome back. I'm STEPH, joined by Andrew the Flash Gordon.
What's up?
And today we're going to be watching a video called The Most Hardcore Soldiers. And this is from the Infographics show. If there's one thing I love, it's learning. And I do love a good infographic. So I'm excited to see what this video has to offer. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and vote this up. And let's see, who are the most hardcore soldiers and why?
When you think of the world's best soldiers, maybe you think of American Navy SEALs using cutting-edge tech, or Russian Spetsnaz fighting bears in hand-to-hand combat, or British SAS parachuting behind enemy lines while sipping a nice piping hot cup of Earl Grey tea. But you'd be dead wrong, because the best soldiers in the world are without a doubt Nepal's Gurkhas. Nepal is a small country situated along the Himalayan mountains and striding the borders of India and Chinese-occupied Tibet. In the 19th century, the Kingdom of Gurkha, present-day Nepal, was busy trying to expand into Tibet and areas of India. The British, who badly wanted access to lucrative trade opportunities in Tibet, petitioned the King of Gurkha repeatedly for trade access, but was refused each time. As the tensions grew, border disputes between Gurkha and British-held Indian territories eventually culminated in all-out war. But it was then that the world would learn of the small but mighty Gurkha warriors. Despite being the world's sole superpower having access to greater wealth and better equipment, British forces struggled in their fight against the Gurkhas. The British East India Company, which championed the conflict, suffered massive casualties, and British commanders remarked on the fighting prowess and bravery of the Gurkha soldiers. The Gurkhas were eventually forced to sign a peace deal with the British, but they had more than earned the respect of the British military. So much so, in fact, that one of the stipulations of the peace deal was that Britain would be allowed to recruit from amongst the Gurkhas for its own military. This would start a 2-century-long partnership between the British military and the Gurkha people. To date, around 20,000 Gurkhas have fought and died alongside British troops in conflicts all around the world. But
Okay, wait, that seems kind of outrageous to me. I wonder what Gurkhas get out of partnering and using their soldiers and their humans and their bodies for the Brits. Maybe the video will get more into it, but it feels like the Brits always get away with getting what they want and kind of screwing other people over.
Yeah, but the idea that, you know, they were in battle with them and like saw the way they fought them, like, oh my God, no, we got to work with these guys.
Right.
They're so skilled.
It reminds me of like 300, just 300 soldiers, but they'll take an army down.
what makes the Gurkhas the best soldiers in the world?
Yeah.
First, their simple genetics. Like any alpine people, Gurkha soldiers have a solid genetic advantage over us lowlanders. At such high altitudes, getting enough oxygen to function normally can be difficult for normal people, even if they aren't doing anything particularly strenuous. To overcome the problems with living at such high elevation, Gurkhas have developed a genetic mutation that allows their blood to more efficiently store and transfer oxygen, and their organs are more efficient at using oxygen than those of us who live at lower elevations. Thus, while a normal person might struggle with the thin oxygen atop a mountain, Gurkhas can make better use of that oxygen and not suffer the same debilitating effects.
That's fascinating. Highest mountain I've ever climbed was Mount Whitney, which is the highest peak in the intercontinental US. My dad and I took elevation sickness medicine the day before because apparently a lot of people, especially from the States, lowlanders as they're saying, we have elevation problems. So people get like really, really sick, like throw up or either like can't breathe and find it hard to breathe. Have you done any hiking like that?
I've done hiking, but never to the extremes that you're talking about. But I didn't even know there was elevation medicine like that.
Yeah.
You just mentioned it. Wow.
It helps like thin your blood, which they just said they're genetically mutated to do that, which feels like they're basically X-Men.
Yeah.
Move a Gurkha to a normal oxygen environment, their genetic mutation allows them even greater efficiency. This means that on a genetic level, Gurkhas are capable of greater physical fitness than normal people. High stamina and great endurance are their superpower. But that's only part of the story, because another reason Gurkhas are the best soldiers in the world is the incredibly grueling selection process to become one. Living in a country with few opportunities for prosperity, becoming a Gurkha is not just about prestige for the Nepalese youth. It's also about opening the doors to a better future. That's why every year almost 30,000 young Nepalese men compete for a slot in the 200-man recruiting quota.
Jeez, that's a lot of people who
for the
get
chance to
rejected.
fight alongside the British military as a Gurkha. The selection process is designed to weed out all but the smartest and toughest of applicants, and it's considered the most brutal in the world. Applicants must run up the Himalayan hills with a wicker basket full of rocks on their back.
Wow.
And they must be able to do 75 bench jumps in 1 minute and 70 sit-ups in 2 minutes. And that's just to get in. Once accepted, additional training awaits a would-be Gurkha. Despite having such low numbers, Gurkhas have historically distinguished themselves on any battlefield they fought on, and their deeds of daring are the stuff of legend. In World War II, Gurkha Lachiman Gurung was fighting on behalf of Britain against Japan. One day, the position he shared with 2 other men was attacked by 200 Japanese, and despite the overwhelming odds, the Gurkhas refused to retreat. After intense fire, both his comrades were mortally wounded, leaving Gurung on his own. Suddenly, several grenades dropped into his position, and Gurung immediately sprung into action, hurtling them back at the enemy one after the other. By the time he pitched the third grenade, though, it exploded in his hand, blowing off most of the fingers on that hand, severely injuring his torso, right arm, and a leg. God, however, had seen fit to give Gurung a spare arm. As the Japanese charged his position, sure that Gurung must be dead by now, they were met by steady and accurate rifle fire as Gurung was using his left hand to fire his rifle.
Wow.
Realizing that Gurung was basically indestructible, the Japanese wisely retreated. When the dust cleared, Gurung had killed 31 Japanese and prevented his position from being overrun, earning himself the coveted Victoria Cross. The Japanese, however, weren't the only Axis power to face the wrath of the Gurkhas, and on the battlefields of Europe...
Wait, that's insane.
I mean, to have your fingers blown off and to still, like, I mean, I can't even imagine the extreme pain level that causes, but to still, like, be able to have the fortitude and the focus to still ward off your enemies, that's incredible determination, and just shows, like, how skilled you have to be to be a Gurkha.
Well,
like,
not even just skilled, it's like you just have to be built different mentally and physically to be able to throw grenades that were thrown at you in that timely of fashion. It really is Avenger, X-Men type of movement.
Well, also, too, when they were talking about, like, 30,000 compete in only 200, I mean, and then they were talking about just the rigors that come with just the tryout portion where they have to run up the mountains, the Himalayan mountains with rocks in their thing. I'm like, I wonder if the Mulan song, like, I'll Make a Man of You starts playing when they're doing that.
Totally.
But, I mean, that's insanity, and I mean, it's crazy what they have to go through. Wow.
The Germans would get their own taste. After a particularly brutal battle, a battalion of Gurkhas commanded by Colonel Peter Jones found itself low on ammunition and pinned down by the enemy machine gun positions. Jones and the Gurkhas decided that despite having many wounded and being low on ammo, the Germans really needed to lose this war badly. And in a scene straight out of Braveheart, the Gurkhas charged at the enemy machine gun positions with rifles and their kukri blades. The fighting turned into brutal hand-to-hand combat, with the Gurkhas destroying the enemy positions. Even off the battlefield, though, Gurkhas are still a force to be reckoned with. In 2011, a retired Gurkha was riding a train in India when a gang of robbers boarded the train. The 40 men immediately began robbing passengers and attempting to kill women. Figuring that 40-to-1 odds made things about fair, retired Gurkha Bishnu Shrestha whipped out his trusty kukri knife and took on the entire gang armed
40?
with knives, swords, and pistols. After killing 3 of the robbers and severely injuring 8 others, the rest of the gang lost its nerve and quickly fled. Thanks to intense training, a genetic mutation, and a fierce fighting spirit,
crazy.
Gurkhas are without a doubt the best soldiers in the world.
I want Gurkhas everywhere. Like,
oh yeah,
we could have
the world would be a safer place.
Gurkha on a train and took out 40 people, like mentally, some physically.
The world would be a lot safer place if there were Gurkhas and retired Gurkhas.
Badass.
Oh my god, yeah.
And anywhere that Britain or its allies fight, Gurkhas are sure to be there.
Yeah, you should never rob, or obviously the other R word that I don't even like to mention that they talked about what they were there to do with the women. You should never do those things in general, but obviously those gentlemen, they did that to the wrong train. I thought it was fascinating. What they said was after 8 were injured and 3 were killed, like the other ones are like, they had way more formidable numbers when it came to just one Gurkha. They're like, nah, this dude is way too determined.
Totally.
We're not going to beat him.
I had no idea that Nepal had such a formidable army and such a process to come into that army, because we hear about the SEALs all the time and we hear about how grueling the process is, how many people die in the process of actually just trying to be a SEAL. I haven't heard about the Gurkhas.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was, again, just the education level that I've been just incurring on all the videos we've been filming today, but this one was extremely interesting. I had never heard of Gurkhas either, but just the rigors of the process of not only like what happens once you get in, but like just to get there, and then like also like their oxygen level when it comes to like being on the mountains and stuff. Like, it's just, they're just built different physically and mentally. It's like they just go to a whole different level. And then seeing what the retired one did against
that was
40,
my favorite
like
part.
that was, oh my goodness. And then like, again, the determination on the one who got his fingers blown out. Like, these dudes are just built differently, mentally and physically. Like, the whole point of this video was, if you are in a entanglement with a Gurkha,
just stop.
Just stop and give up, surrender.
Say sorry.
Yeah, if you are being protected by a Gurkha, you're in good hands.
And if I was the president, I think I would hire Gurkhas as my national security.
Yeah, a Secret Service. We want Gurkhas on top of the Secret Service.
Fully. Thank you, the Infographics show, for this video. It was awesome. Thank y'all for watching with us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and vote this up. I'm STEPH SABRAW. This is
Andrew Flash Gordon.
Much love.